Hi there, I'm Maris. And yeah, you read that right. My sister's birthday party was booked at my hotel, without my permission. She strutted in with her fiancé's family like she owned the place, then looked me in the eye and told the staff to kick that homeless woman out. That homeless woman was me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was, my entire family knew. They planned it. They expected me to pay for it, in silence. The second I stepped onto the porch of my parents' house in New Orleans, that familiar ache pressed down on my chest, like my lungs knew to brace before my heart caught up. It was early June, humid, with the smell of jasmine and crawfish hanging in the air. I hadn't been home in nearly 5 months, not because I was too busy, but because I knew exactly how this would go. My mother greeted me with that smile, the one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Maris, honey, look at you. Still wearing black, huh?" she chirped, kissing the air near my cheek. "You know, a little color wouldn't kill you." I forced a laugh. "Hi, Mom." Dad was already at the dinner table, half done with his lasagna, eyes glued to his plate like it might solve world hunger if he stared long enough. And then there was Seren. She was lounging on the love seat like she was posing for a photo shoot, draped in a designer dress I'm sure she didn't pay for. Her lips curled into that smug half-smile I'd grown up hating. "Well, well," she said, standing. "New Orleans' favorite mystery woman returns. Did you finally finish alphabetizing your spreadsheets?" I didn't bite. I just nodded and took a seat across from her. The table was set with our mother's best china, which only came out for holidays, interventions, or announcements. That should have been my first clue. Dinner started stiff. Mom complimented the weather, Dad mentioned traffic, and Seren posted a selfie mid-meal, her phone angled to avoid capturing my face. I should have walked out right then. Instead, I took a bite of bread and tried to convince myself this was just dinner. Then Seren stood up. "I have something exciting to share," she beamed, lifting her glass. "My 33rd is around the corner, and it's gonna be iconic, like Kardashian-level iconic." I kept chewing. "I've found the perfect rooftop in the warehouse district. There's a champagne wall, live music, drone footage, a horse-drawn carriage. Think Paris, but with better lighting." She paused for dramatic effect. "Total cost? Just under $150,000. I nearly choked." I set down my glass. She didn't flinch. "And you," she said, pointing directly at me. "Get to make it happen. Come on, sis. It's not like you're doing anything real with your money." The room went quiet. Even the ceiling fan sounded like it stopped turning. I glanced at Mom, waiting for her to shut it down. Instead, she tilted her head. "Sweetheart, it really would mean a lot to your sister. You've been so blessed lately. Isn't it time to give back a little?" Dad kept chewing. Didn't look up, didn't say a word. That's when it hit me. I wasn't family. I was funding. I tried to swallow my rising anger, but it tasted like betrayal. I excused myself from the table before I said something I'd regret. Again. Back at my place, I sat at the kitchen island with a glass of wine and tried to scrub the night from my memory. My phone buzzed. It was Ina, my operations manager, and only person in my life with a working bullshit radar. "Check Seren's Instagram story." I opened it. She'd posted a reel, split screen. On one side, her sipping champagne with her event planner. On the other, a video of my car pulling into my driveway, windows down, paint a little faded. The caption? "When your rich sister lives like she's in witness protection." The comments were already piling up. At least she's not pretending to be someone she's not. "That house screams anxiety." LMF, she drives that? I stared at the screen. My jaw clenched so tight, I thought my molars would crack. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell every single commenter exactly what I'd built, what I owned, how I paid for it all with my own 2 hands. But I didn't. I just stared. She thinks this is over a birthday party. She has no idea what she just started. 2 days passed. I didn't return a single call, didn't answer any texts from my family. Ina offered to take my phone and throw it in the Mississippi, and honestly, I was tempted. Instead, I turned off notifications and drowned myself in zoning permits and spreadsheets. My hands worked, but my chest was tight the whole time. The video was still up, still getting likes, still being reshared by people who didn't even know me, people who found it hilarious that I drove a 10-year-old car and didn't flaunt my money like I stole it. "She's not going to stop," Ina said, tapping her fingers on the conference table. "I know," I said, "but she's not the one I'm worried about." She raised an eyebrow, but I didn't explain. I'd seen this coming in pieces, like slow leaks under drywall, but now the wall had cracked, and behind it, the rot was spreading. That afternoon, I was reviewing contracts when I saw a familiar figure through the frosted glass of my office door. My stomach dropped. My mother didn't make appointments. She breezed in like she owned the place, arms full. "I thought I'd stop by," she said, placing a Tupperware of banana bread on my desk. "Still no receptionist? You really ought to make this space more welcoming." I forced a smile. "Hey, Mom." She sat down like she'd been invited. "You're working too hard. You always do, just like your father. Though he was never great with money. You get that from me." I stayed silent. I could feel Ina's eyes on me through the glass, but I didn't call her in. Then Celeste reached into her handbag and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. "I brought something for you to look at," she said lightly, like it was a recipe or a Christmas card. I opened it slowly, expecting nothing. Maybe a thank you note for showing up to dinner. Instead, it was a printout, a budget breakdown. At the top, Saran's 33rd Dream Event. Halfway down, underlined in pink highlighter, venue contribution, Maris Calder, $150,000. Confirmed? My throat went dry. "Confirmed?" I said, my voice sharp before I could stop it. "Who confirmed this?" Celeste's smile didn't budge. "Sweetheart, let's not make this harder than it needs to be. You know Saran doesn't have the kind of money this takes. And your father and I, well, we're on a fixed income now. She's your sister." I set the envelope down like it was laced with something toxic. She humiliated me online. She was being playful. She mocked my life. She's going through a phase. I stared at her. "You're really asking me to foot the bill for the person who just used me as punchline fodder for her followers?" "I'm not asking," she said calmly. "I'm showing you the plan. You've always been the responsible one. This is just what's expected." There it was again. That word. Expected, not requested, not discussed, just decided. I picked up the Tupperware, handed it back. "Thanks for the bread," I said flatly. She looked wounded, like I'd slapped her. "Don't be like this, Maris. You're making it so dramatic." "I think you've confused the definition of that word," I said. She stood up, smoothing her blouse like she'd just closed a deal. "Let me know if you want me to send over the planner's info. You're going to love her. Very boutique." Then she walked out, leaving the scent of her perfume and that damn envelope behind. I didn't tear it up. I didn't scream. I walked to the window, stared at the street below, and let my jaw lock itself into place. They didn't even ask. They just assumed I'd pay for silence. I stood there longer than I realized, frozen in front of the window, watching nothing. The sun was setting, but I didn't notice until the light was gone. Eventually, I turned off the lights, walked through the quiet house, and landed in the kitchen. The banana bread was still on the counter, wrapped in cellophane like it was some kind of peace offering. I stared at it like it might move or speak. My mother baked that same recipe when I got sick as a child. I used to think it meant love. Now? It felt like a warning label wrapped in sugar. I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and tried to focus on something that wasn't them. Lease renewals, property maintenance notes, payroll, anything. But my hands didn't move. My eyes just stared at the glowing screen until the letters blurred. That's when the memory hit. I was 10. Hospital bed. White sheets, too thin. Machines blinking softly beside me. The beeping was constant. I'd caught some virus that kept me there for over a week, and Mom didn't leave my side. She stayed curled up in that stiff recliner, wrapped in her coat, breathing shallow. "You're the reason I'm strong," she whispered one night, stroking my hair. "You saved me from myself, Maris." I remember blinking at her, scared and small. The next night, I overheard her on the phone with Dad, furious that he hadn't brought the right insurance forms. "We gave up everything for her," she snapped. "I quit my job, Martin. You're working night shifts like a damn mule. I don't care what it takes. We're not leaving her in some god-awful facility." And then, after she hung up, she looked at me and smiled again, like none of it happened. "We gave up so much for you, sweetheart. Just promise you'll never forget that, okay?" I was 10, and I nodded. Back then, I thought it was love, devotion. I had no idea it was a trade agreement. My chest ached as I sat back in the present. My adult self, alone in a quiet kitchen, with a freezer full of frozen dinners, and no one asking how I felt, just what I could give. They never ask, they expect. And if you say no, they remind you what they've done for you. Guilt was always the invoice they sent when I didn't comply. I started remembering all the other times. College tuition meetings where I was expected to understand that Seren's creative path meant she'd bounce between majors while I worked nights. Holidays where my gifts were met with, "Wow, not bad for someone with no husband." Every sacrifice was supposed to come with a thank you note. Except mine. I opened a draft email I'd started to my mother earlier. Something soft, something diplomatic. "I appreciate you coming by. I just wish things were handled more openly." I deleted the whole thing in one stroke. Then I walked to the freezer, opened it, and slid the banana bread inside, right between the frozen peas and an old bottle of vodka. I closed the door without blinking. "I'm not your debt to collect," I whispered. "I'm not your redemption story." I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something solid under my feet. I used to think being needed meant being loved. Now I'm not so sure. The next morning, I was back at my desk downtown, early as usual, before the coffee shop across the street even turned on its lights. I hadn't slept much, but I didn't feel tired. I felt sharp. Like my body had decided it was done wasting energy on emotions and was ready to move in straight lines only. My inbox was full of the usual: client inquiries, floral vendor confirmations, inquiries for fall weddings, but none of it really held my attention. Then Ina walked in, holding a manila envelope like it might explode. "Courier dropped this off 10 minutes ago," she said, her tone flat. "From Saran's fiance's assistant. Labeled urgent, but guess whose name it's addressed to?" She dropped it on my desk. It had my full name printed in elegant serif font, just under the embossed words Monroe Events Group. I opened it slowly. Inside was a thick, glossy contract packet, heavy paper, gold-trimmed tabs. Very Seren. It looked like a standard reservation agreement for a venue I'd never heard of. The Imperial Deckhouse, one of those overpriced rooftop venues downtown. They'd penciled in a family contact section, and there it was. Family Financial Liaison, Maris Calder, signature required. It didn't make sense, until I flipped to page 6 and saw it. Small print, tucked into a subclause under liability adjustments. In the event the primary booking party fails to remit payment in full within 30 business days, the listed family contact assumes responsibility for all unpaid balances, fees, and penalties, including legal and collection costs. I blinked, read it again, and then I laughed, short and dry. "She really thought I wouldn't read this," I said aloud. Ina crossed her arms. "She thought guilt would sign it for you." My fingers curled slightly around the contract, not enough to crumple it, but enough to feel it press back. I didn't speak for a while. I didn't need to. I slid the whole packet into my lower drawer and labeled it in my head. Evidence. "You know," I said, "if she put this much effort into managing her own finances, She wouldn't need a backup wallet with my face on it. Ina raised an eyebrow. Want me to shred it? Number let her wonder. I opened my email, composed a new message, and addressed it to Monroe Events Group's assistant. No greeting, no warmth. Subject, contract request. Body, we do not process documents submitted through emotional channels. All future communications must be routed through our legal department. Unsolicited contracts will not be acknowledged. M. Calder. I hit send. Then I opened my calendar, scrolled to next week, and created a new recurring event. Title: Monitor Financial Setups. Family, I stared at the screen for a moment longer, then whispered to myself, that's the last time they catch me off guard. This wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't betrayal. Not anymore. This was business. And in business, I don't scream. I won't scream. I'll build a wall so high, they'll feel it in their bones. Saturday mornings at Somerset used to be my calm. Quiet walkthroughs, clipboard in hand, checking the linens, lighting, and flower deliveries, like a conductor tuning an orchestra before the guests arrived. But this morning, as I moved through the marble foyer, I felt it. A current in the air. Something was off. Ina trailed behind me with her tablet, double-checking the system updates. She paused near the mirrored hallway and squinted at the screen. Did you approve the white gardenias for next weekend's VIP? She asked. No, I replied. I haven't touched next weekend's calendar. Her eyebrows pulled together. Well, someone did. The request is in, along with ice sculptures, imported candles from Provence, and a special sound permit for live music. I walked over, scanned the entry. Client name, SC3 initials, that instantly tightened something in my chest. She wouldn't, I said, more to myself than her. Ina tilted her head. She might. We headed straight to the booking records in the back office. I logged in, bypassed the third-party event manager system, and there it was. Somerset Grand Lux package, booked via external agency. Date, Serene's birthday weekend. No phone call, no email, no heads up. She booked my venue like it was a hotel room, like I was a stranger. She's trying to force your hand, Ina said quietly. If the party's already moving forward, you'll look petty canceling it. It was smart. Desperate, but smart. I didn't speak. I opened the security camera archive from the evening before, and there she was. Serene. In heels far too high for cobblestone, strutting across my ballroom like it was her stage. Laughing, gesturing, talking animatedly to a wedding planner I didn't recognize. Her hands flailed dramatically as she pointed toward the terrace, spinning in a full circle to show off the vibe. She's acting like she already owns the damn place, Ina muttered. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms. My eyes didn't leave the screen. She thinks I won't touch her in public. Ina stayed silent, knowing better than to interrupt that kind of stillness. She thought this was a game of social image, optics, and passive-aggressive elegance. But she was playing in my backyard now, and in my backyard, the rules were different. Don't cancel anything, I said finally. Not yet. Ina gave me a long look. You're letting her go through with it? I'm letting her bury herself. I opened a blank folder on my desktop. SC, unauthorized booking, then a subfolder, communications, document everything. She wants this party to be her crowning moment, I said, eyes narrowing. Let's make sure she earns every inch of it. Ina smirked. You want a paper trail? I want a mountain. We walked back out to the foyer. Staff were setting up for a bridal brunch, unaware of the war quietly unfolding behind the scenes. This was no longer about candles or contracts. This wasn't about a birthday. This was about who owns the name on the gate. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working from my home office, windows cracked open just enough to let in the scent of gardenia from the front yard. For once, I'd found rhythm again, sorting contracts, editing floor plans, sipping my second coffee in relative silence. Then my phone buzzed. Ina, you might want to check ballroom camera 3. It's happening. I didn't ask what she meant. I clicked into the live surveillance feed without hesitation. Somerset's ballroom flickered onto my screen, crystal chandeliers gleaming, gold-trimmed sconces casting soft light. And then I saw her. Serene. Storming across the floor in 5-inch stilettos, already mid-rant. "This is the color scheme? Are you serious right now? This looks like a middle school prom." She waved her arms at the decorator, who stood frozen next to a half-finished centerpiece. The florist beside her winced as Seren tore a rose from the arrangement and flung it to the floor. "You call this luxury? This is depressing. My followers are going to drag me for this." A young staffer walked by, arms full of linens. Serene snapped her fingers. Hey, linen girl, that's not the fabric I ordered. I swear, is anyone here literate?" The girl paused, startled. English clearly wasn't her first language. She gave a timid smile and kept walking. Seren rolled her eyes. "Unbelievable. You let amateurs run this place?" And then she did it. She grabbed a clipboard from the table, scanned it, and slammed it down hard enough that it flew off and clattered onto the marble floor. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. I just watched. That's when Ina stepped into frame, calm, spine straight, expression unreadable. "This is a private venue under contract," she said clearly, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Our team deserves to be treated with professional respect." Seren turned slowly, her eyes scanning Ina like she was a bug on a windshield. "Oh, please. Spare me the lecture. Do you even know who I am?" Ina didn't hesitate. "Do you?" For a beat, the room went still. Seren scoffed and turned away, muttering something about ungrateful staff and having my lawyer on speed dial. But I wasn't listening to her anymore. I'd heard all I needed. I leaned back in my chair, watching the final seconds of the footage as Seren stormed out of frame. I clicked rewind and played it again, then again, her voice, her face, her entitlement, all recorded. I minimized the video and opened a folder already waiting on my desktop. Incident response. Inside it was one file. Client Policy Section 3.2. Grounds for termination and ban. It was clear as day. Hostile behavior toward staff, defamation of venue, willful property disruption. All of it. Every checkbox. I clicked and dragged the video into the folder. She thought she was playing a private game of pretend, but she gave me everything I needed, without even realizing it. She gave me everything I needed, without even realizing it. 2 days later, the Somerset ballroom looked like a magazine spread. Fresh orchids lined the marble banisters. Golden chairs flanked ivory linens. The chandeliers sparkled like they knew what was coming. Serene waltzed through the arched entryway like a movie star on set, all hip sway and breathy laughter. Beckham trailed behind her, quietly attentive, but distant. His parents, Elowyn and Winston Monroe, walked with slow, deliberate steps. You could tell they were the kind of people who measured rooms by how the air moved in them. Seren pointed at the grand staircase. "Isn't this perfect? It screams legacy." From my office upstairs, I watched everything through the security feed. Ina stood near the entrance, greeting them with flawless professionalism. She looked up briefly toward the camera and gave the slightest nod. Time. I adjusted the cuffs of my navy blazer, straightened my spine, and waited. Down below, Seren launched into one of her monologues. "The chandeliers? Imported from Austria, custom designed. The owner works with high-end clients. Very exclusive." Elowyn tilted her head. "And who's the owner?" Seren smiled too wide. "We have connections." Winston folded his hands. "So you don't know?" Before she could fumble out another dodge, Ina stepped forward and pressed a button on her tablet. The ambient music cut. Silence blanketed the room, and I began to descend. My heels clicked against the marble steps, steady and sharp. Every eye turned. I paused at the halfway point, met Serene's gaze, and offered the faintest smile. Then I continued down. "Welcome to Somerset," I said, holding out my hand to Elowyn. "I'm Maris Calder, the owner and creative director of this estate." Winston blinked. Elowen raised a brow, but her eyes flickered with interest, not offense. Serin. She looked like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. You own this place? She croaked. But you live in that tiny house. I turned to her, calm and clear. A smart businesswoman doesn't wear her assets on her sleeve. She builds them brick by brick and lets them speak for themselves. Elowen smiled slowly. How refreshing. I was beginning to think nobody under 60 believed in discretion anymore. Winston nodded. Impressive, Ms. Calder. Very impressive. Beckham looked at me with a different kind of expression now. Not pity, not confusion, recognition. Serene stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, trying to summon something to say. Nothing came. I didn't gloat. I didn't lean in. I simply turned to Ina. Please escort the Monroes to the East Terrace, I said. I'll join them shortly. Ina nodded and gestured gracefully toward the corridor. As they moved, Seren lingered behind, her breath shallow, fists clenched. I didn't even look at her when I passed. For the first time in my life, I didn't need them to clap. I had the floor. We moved through the terrace slowly, deliberate and unbothered. The Monroe family admired the grounds with a kind of practiced elegance, nodding thoughtfully, speaking sparingly. Elowen pulled me aside near the fountain, as Seren tried, and failed, to reinsert herself into the conversation. You built all of this? Elowen asked. From the ground up, I said. She took a breath and gave me a look only women with experience know how to give. An assessment and an affirmation all at once. You're exactly the kind of woman our family respects. Quiet strength. Real results. Seren's voice rang out from behind us. Wait, Elowen, can we talk? She sounded small. For the first time since childhood, she sounded like the younger sister she actually was. But Elowen didn't turn around. Winston approached a moment later, placing a firm hand on Beckham's shoulder. You may want to reconsider your priorities, he said to him plainly. Beckham looked at Seren, then at me. He didn't speak, but his silence said everything. It was a silence that didn't protect her. It exposed her. Seren broke down in the hallway as they walked away. She pressed her back against the mirrored wall and slid to the floor, her makeup smudging, her voice cracking in a half-sob. I didn't stop. I didn't gloat. I walked right past her, head high, heels steady, pulse unreadable. That night, I returned to my home and turned every light off except the kitchen. The silence was different now. It wasn't empty. It was earned. I was sipping tea when my phone buzzed. A single text from my father. Can we talk? I hesitated, then hit call. He answered immediately. Hi, Princess. I didn't reply. I just think, maybe don't push things further, okay? It's still her birthday week. That was it. That was the thing he needed to say. Not, I'm proud of you, not. You handled that with grace. Just, don't make waves. It's her week. I laughed quietly into the phone. I stood there, I said. I stood right in front of you all, and you still didn't see me. He sighed. It's not like that. It is exactly like that, I said. It always has been. Look, we just want the family to stay. Intact? I cut in. It's never been intact. It's been built around Seren like a house of cards. He didn't deny it. I'm not mad, I said, suddenly calm. I'm just done. He paused. You don't mean that. I do. I hung up. Then I slid the phone into the drawer beside my sink and closed it gently. Outside, the lights of New Orleans blinked against the darkness. Distant music floated in from a jazz bar a few streets away, the kind of song that makes you ache and breathe at the same time. I watched it all, not waiting for someone to show up, not hoping someone would call back, just breathing. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped asking them to show up. 2 weeks passed, no headlines, no apology tour, just quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't echo. It settled. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sorting contracts and sipping lukewarm coffee when I noticed the email. Subject line: I'm sorry. From Martin Calder. I clicked it before I could talk myself out of it. You were right. I should have stood up. I'm sorry. Dad. That was it. No buts. No passive-aggressive deflection. No, but you know how your sister is. Just a single sentence. Late, but clean. I read it 5 times. Then I deleted it. But I smiled when I did. Somerset hadn't slowed down. If anything, it was surging. We had 3 weddings booked for the next month, 2 corporate galas, and a high-profile fundraiser that had local news sniffing around. Ina was now fielding requests from planners in 4 different states. She walked into my office with her usual tablet in hand. We've got a request from Elowen Monroe's niece, she said, tapping. She asked for you directly. Of course she did, I said. We'll take good care of her. I meant it. That same day, my phone lit up with a push notification from a wedding industry blog. Influencer event canceled. Somerset denies involvement. Speculation mounts. And then, are these luxury events just for show? Inside the collapse of a brand. They didn't mention her name outright, but I didn't need them to. Later that evening, out of pure curiosity, I checked Serene's socials. Her latest video was still up, but the energy was different. Muted lighting, no makeup, no background music. Comments turned off. She stared into the camera for almost 2 full minutes before speaking. I didn't watch all of it. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. There was no satisfaction, no anger, no fire in my chest. Just air. I closed the app, put my phone face down, and walked outside with a glass of wine. The porch was warm, washed in the orange glow of the setting sun. The street was quiet, except for the rustle of wind through the live oaks. I drove past my parents' house that morning, slowed down for half a second. Didn't stop. Not because I was bitter, because I didn't feel the pull anymore. I used to think peace came when people apologized, when the scales finally tipped back in your favor, when the villains got exposed and the family admitted they were wrong. But peace is quieter than that. Peace is walking away when no one asks you to. Peace is deleting the message without replying. Peace is saying no and not explaining why. I took a sip of wine. The night wrapped around me like a soft exhale. And maybe that's the real revenge. Not winning, but walking away clean. You know, if there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that peace doesn't come when people finally treat you right. It comes when you start treating yourself like you matter. For years, I thought loyalty meant silence. That being a good daughter, a good sister, meant making myself smaller just so others could shine. But the truth is, shrinking never saved anyone. You can love your family and still draw a line. You can walk away without hating them. And you can stop chasing validation from people who never bothered to look at you clearly. I didn't win by being louder. I won by finally listening to myself. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own story? Have you ever carried guilt that was never yours to begin with? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And hey, if this story hit home for you, type 1, or let me know where you're watching from. If you didn't connect with it, that's okay too. Drop a comment and tell me why. Was it the message, the pace, the ending? This channel is all about real stories for real people. So if you want more honest, emotional storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe. You never know. The next story might be the one that finally puts your feelings into words. Thanks for spending your time here. See you in the next one.
You need to take responsibility for this case and resign. I was unable to accept Margaret's unpleasant face when she said that, so I firmly said, "We still haven't determined the main problem. It's too drastic to fire me." The reason? Clearly, you made a mistake. It's only a question of time since you're already getting close to retirement. I silently snapped at her, knowing full well that she had no intention of investigating. Her tone was sarcastic. She was unaware that firing me would be the end of her career, possibly even her life. "Excuse me, Mr. President, I need to talk." I walked into the president's office without warning, and he was astonished. "Jameson, what is it? Why is that face so scary?" The president knew what was going on right now, but he never thought he would hear me say I was leaving. I gave him my resignation letter and gave him an explanation of our earlier talk. "Please, just calm down. What about your patents, though? Without them, the company will fail." "My patents. But because I've been let go, goodbye." I never would have thought that I would have a card that would completely reverse the situation so soon. I'm a 58-year-old systems engineer named Jameson. I have worked for this company for 30 years, mostly developing core systems for government and business organizations, IES. To stay current, we now concentrate on creating online store apps for businesses. Programmers and engineers now work in a more varied range of fields than in the past, and every generation brings with it a wealth of new knowledge. Nevertheless, in retrospect, it was worthwhile to go through the process of collaborating as a team to satisfy customers' expectations and expand the business. We get a lot of requests from businesses for app development because people these days prefer to shop online rather than in physical locations. Because of this, there is a severe engineer shortage in the business, and I was having everyday difficulties managing several projects. We also made an effort to train young workers, but the present generation of workers was unable to handle the demanding workload and frequently left before they had a chance to develop further due to regular late-night overtime and even remaining overnight during peak times. Numerous requests were made for the business to greatly enhance the working atmosphere. Even I, a dedicated employee who never got married, had begged for improved working circumstances, but eventually put up with the when in Rome attitude for decades. I've always thought that eventually someone would take action. I overheard an amusing talk among the HR workers one day while taking a break and smoking a cigarette. It appeared that a woman in her 40s would take over as HR director. Thoughtless HR head before, but what about this time around? I thought they would employ some bright engineers, put more money into sales and development, and assign it to my department. However, based on the talk I'd overheard, I was forced to abandon that dream. I was still busy and had forgotten about the unpleasant rumors a month after I first heard them. I was astonished to see that the budget for this month had been reduced by more than 30% one day when I was going over it. We were going to have to work unpaid overtime to achieve the project deadlines because of the drastically reduced labor budget. I limited the information since I knew how serious the situation was, and I went to HR to talk about the budget. I thought about the new HR head I had heard about in the smoking area while I was in the elevator. I felt depressed at the idea of meeting them. It was boisterous at HR when I got there. There was a woman who appeared to be the head of HR disputing with someone from another department. The man from the other division stormed by me as I got closer, obviously upset. I inferred from the discourse and tone that they had likewise made considerable cuts to their budget. "Excuse me, I'm Jameson from development, and I need to talk to the HR head." To keep things amicable, I made an effort to be as courteous as I could. "Had you scheduled a meeting?" She said it in a dismissive tone. "I'm busy." I was not one to give up lightly. "I apologize for abruptly troubling you. Jameson here from the development department. I have some inquiries concerning the budget for this month." The head of HR, Margaret, sat at her desk and widened her eyes for a time before speaking. "You're Jameson, I see. I apologize for the inconvenience, but I can't adjust the budget. I've recently started this job, so please don't add extra work that I don't need to perform." Her way of speaking to someone much older than herself, even if she held the higher position, was inappropriate. In addition, I've always felt that the funding for the development department is excessive. I've made multiple recommendations to my father, the president. Margaret's reckless demeanor astounded me. She obviously didn't comprehend the difficulties facing the development department, despite the fact that we worked for the same firm. Still, while drafting the budget, there ought to be some discussion with every department. We won't have enough money for overtime compensation under this budget. The caliber of our apps and systems will deteriorate as a result of our need to put in more unpaid time. Even though I knew it would probably not matter, I felt compelled to speak up. Then manage your employees to finish their work on time without overtime. Are you even qualified to make such statement? The head of our department and I don't get along. I manage a lot of projects, have a professional background, and am essentially in charge of the development department. Although I think I'm in a good situation, it's hard to make timely exits right now. Even though I knew nothing I said would change the situation, I couldn't help but speak when someone who wasn't aware of it did. You certainly seem impressive for someone without a title. You understand that you had a limited budget, so use your brain to finish the work. Then, please talk with Mike, our manager, about this more. I said, "Excuse me," not seeing a way out. I made the decision to back off. I have lived for more than 50 years, and I have never met someone so uncivilized and oppressive. I went to the smoking section to smoke a cigarette to help me relax. Though I told myself it would be a waste for someone like Margaret, I still felt like smoking 5 more. It's time to return. I went back to the development department and spoke with Mike, the manager, right away. He treated me as though I were an issue. "Jameson, did you go directly to the head of HR without telling me?" "Yes, you were away, so I took it upon myself to talk to her." Mike grumbled, obviously irritated by what I had done. He has never liked confrontation and has always tried to stay out of trouble. It's advisable to obey that HR chief. She became involved through contacts, became the president's daughter, and quickly advanced to her current position. She told me that just now, although I wasn't shocked. I had heard this story in the smoking section before. I couldn't figure out why they would put her in HR when she was trying to advance her career. Unpaid overtime is assured with this budget, but I don't want to be at odds with my superiors either. How will we proceed? Our developers would either crumble or scatter in droves as a result of this. We currently lack sufficient staff, so it would be disastrous to lose any more. We have no choice but to do unpaid overtime, but don't let the quality of the apps drop. Although I wasn't surprised, I was somewhat upset to learn that Mike and Margaret had the same opinion. This wouldn't sit well with the other engineers. After all, who works for money? Even though I got a bad feeling, I had to give up. From that point on, our staff worked on several projects and put in late hours every night to complete unpaid overtime. The money that was meant for system and app development instead went toward our benefits, overtime pay, and monthly paycheck. Margaret's tyrannical leadership destroyed our motivation and endangered our way of life. I can no longer stand to work like a dog, Jameson. I am at my breaking point. The younger staff members let out a stream of grievances and disappointments, saying, "I'm about to collapse." Although it's my responsibility to correct them, I feel as like I'm at the end of my rope and can't help them enough. And I've reached my limit. For what purpose are we even working? Margaret has absurd ideas for her finances. It makes sense why they would think so. The sales department has experienced significant budget cuts as well, but it is now unmanageable due to the increase in client projects and new company ventures. Both of us are about to go under. With Margaret's head, we've sunk to a new low even though we were already a dark company. I have no idea how to put that into words. I say, "Oh, Margaret, good work," as I walk by her in the corridor. Instead of replying to my greeting, she clicks her tongue. It appears that I am the only target of this attitude, maybe as a result of our earlier run-in. My colleagues and my subordinates' discontent increased every day, and by the time Margaret had been head for 6 months, resignations were commonplace. "Thank you so much for everything, Jameson. I'm leaving and returning to my hometown." "It's too much for me anymore," he replies, sounding almost dead. "Indeed, you've accomplished far enough. I'm grateful." I apologize for requiring you to work for such a corporation. First, rest well. Then, after you're feeling better, tend to your parents. Your life is only getting started, and you are young." Another important team member departed. Not only is the development department losing staff members, but other departments are also experiencing a wave of resignations. How much longer will things stay this way? Is it worth it to be employed at a company that has become an unending source of misery? Still, I won't be retiring for another few years. I'll persevere. I gave myself a pat on the back and returned to my computer. The development department was thrown into disarray one evening when a client reported a system issue. "Jameson, we are going to immediately apologize to the client." Manager Mike quickly reminded me to get ready. Disappointed, I closed my laptop and pulled my tie back. When we went to apologize to the client, we were reprimanded for more than 2 hours rather than having a civil conversation. I was shocked as well. I had worked in this field for more than 30 years, and I had never received such a harsh punishment for a mistake. Future business transactions were reevaluated due to the malfunction's excessively large losses. However, it made sense. The development department was already overflowing with engineer resignations and collapses. It was not shocking that errors and glitches began to appear. "Jameson, you really messed up." After the client raged at me on the train ride back, Manager Mike threw the blame at me, his subordinate. I apologized profusely. It escaped my notice during delivery. We got back to the office and I was called into HR right away. I thought the head would punish me in some way. I was probably really exhausted when I entered the elevator. I was annoyed with the entire corporation instead of feeling afraid. "You called for me?" I asked, turning to face Margaret. "Jameson, stop acting as though you don't know. You made a grave error." Considering that she forced the resignation of important engineers and fostered an atmosphere where unpaid overtime was required, she had no right to make that claim. Even though the problem involved a client I was in charge of, instances like these are not unusual given the budget and manpower constraints. I shot back at Margaret, coolly and rationally. She is my superior, yet I couldn't allow her get away with it. "With that attitude, are you saying it's because of my budget?" she inquired. "I believe it is one of the factors in this case," I said. Margaret's countenance contorted into anger, but I couldn't just take her reprimand in silence. I was beyond caring, but I could sense what she was going to say next. "You need to take responsibility for this and resign," she insisted. I couldn't take Margaret's expression when she said that, so I firmly retorted, "We haven't even determined the reason yet. It's too drastic to fire me." "The reason? Clearly, you made a mistake. It's only a matter of time since you're almost retired anyhow," she remarked sarcastically. I silently lost it when I realized she was not going to investigate the true reason. Comprehensive. "I'll provide my resignation letter to the president and let him know if you persist," I said. I hurried out of HR, returned to my development department workstation, and picked up my letter of resignation. It was something I had planned for a long time, in case I ever needed to give up. The president's office was the only place to go. I remarked as I walked in, "Excuse me, Mr. President. I need to talk." I burst into the president's office, startling him. "Jameson, what is it? Why is that face so scary?" he inquired. The president knew what was going on right now, but he never thought he would hear me say I was leaving. I gave him my resignation letter and gave him an explanation of our earlier talk. "Please, just calm down. What about your patents, though? Without them, the company will fail," he declared. "My patents? As I've been fired, goodbye," I answered. "What? It makes sense," I said as I left the president's office. "The systems and apps that account for 70% of the company's revenue cannot be operated or altered without me." I made my way directly to the smoking section. I would always come here to get my thoughts straight. The idea that I wouldn't be smoking here anymore made me feel sad. I started making plans to spend my latter years working as a freelance engineer because I had some savings. As I smoked and thought about this, a security guard came up to me. "Well done, Jameson. Why is that face so dejected?" he inquired. Well, it's really hard to say, but actually, I became rambling. He was about my age, and we used to hang out in the smoking section together. I told him about my firing, as well as the awful office atmosphere and the infamous HR head. That is the narrative. I was half exasperated already, so I tried to make it sound like a joke when I said, "I never thought I'd get fired so easily." "Jameson, that's just too much. You've experienced a lot." "Anyone would find it absurd," he retorted. He mentioned something unexpected just when I was relieved to vent to someone close. I was going to keep this to myself, but there's something about the head of HR that's been bothering me. "What about Margaret?" I inquired. His expression was pitiful as he started talking. One day, while I was monitoring the security cameras in the guard room, I saw a woman who looked like the head of HR hugging a man in a deserted warehouse. Hugging? I questioned, taken aback. "That kind of hug," he said in agreement. It was very amazing to watch on the security camera. Although I had heard gossip that she was attracted to guys, I never thought she would act in such a way while working. The man appears to be married. On his left hand, I noticed a ring-like brilliance. The security officer was somewhat relieved. "I decided to reveal this to you, Jameson, as it made me feel uneasy." Still, I was interested in the man. "When was this video recorded?" I asked. "I need to check something." "Let me see. Are you planning to go to the security room?" inquired the man. Indeed. I've got nothing to lose because I was dismissed. I begged, "Please help me," and was let into the security room. Every 3 days or so, they have a covert meeting at the warehouse. "I've noted multiple instances and dates," he remarked. I grinned silently as he showed me the most recent footage. Manager Mike was the man who was hugging Margaret, and there was no doubt. Before leaving for home, I thanked the security man and received a copy of the troublesome film. The company can't function without me, but I feel like I've got to pull off one final major prank because I feel like I do. I never imagined that I would devise such a cunning scheme before to becoming 60. Planning my approach while having a cigarette at home, I sat at my workstation. I wanted to open a can of beer, but refrained to maintain my composure. I took a shower, made my plan for the next day, and went to bed. The grand finale takes place tomorrow. My head was filled with images of the company I had worked for so many years. The idea that I would be battling this alone after the firm failed me is pitiful and awful. Luckily, though, I had some fascinating cards to deal with now. I made the decision to embrace this battle and gave myself mental encouragement until I fell asleep. The weather was ideal the following morning, making it an appropriate morning for the battle. Knowing that this might be my last day at the company, I prepared myself resolutely and went there. I walked lightly. I arrived feeling calm despite my circumstances, only to discover the office in disarray. Anticipatedly, the customer was promptly contacted to arrange an urgent meeting to discuss the problems resulting from the system failure. The president gave the order, and the conference room with the screen served as the venue. "The meeting is in the evening." Mike, the manager, answered. With a little anxiety, he answered, "Yeah, it seems so." I questioned his level of comprehension regarding the gravity of the circumstance. I looked into the problem more over my lunch break and discovered that it had become a really concerning scenario overnight. I was tempted to tell him in private. My hand only grew stronger over time. It's likely that very few engineers in the development department realized how serious this issue was. I calmed down before the conflict by drinking black coffee and puffing on a cigarette in the designated smoking area. This is doable, I told myself. It was almost time. The president, executives, and managers from several departments were present when the meeting got underway. Even though I was let go yesterday, I took part in the activity as the director in charge. The substantial budget cuts that had been a source of worry over the previous 6 months contributed significantly to the malfunction, as they frequently resulted in the resignation of experienced engineers, which in turn led to poor system management. All I did was tell Margaret again what I had said earlier. Margaret, why was the budget cut so drastically? Margaret stumbled through a nonsensical response to reduce overtime and promote work efficiency. It was quite challenging to design and modify the absence systems with the limited funding. Without money for labor, working overtime without pay became the norm. Margaret was still silent, I noted as I urged her further. It really was amazing how hard she attempted to stand her ground against me. Overtime rose rather than decreased. Our restricted resources, fewer staff and less money, made our work even less productive. The executives knew that Margaret was a conceited person, and most of them nodded. I take it that's because Jameson lacks competence. It is merely scapegoating to blame the budget, she continued. Why is she not addressing Manager Mike's responsibility? Others began to question this, so I got up and moved in the direction of the projector. What are you doing, Jameson? Go back to your seat. Margaret gave the order. The buzz in the meeting room started. It makes sense, given that in this tight environment I started fumbling with the projector out of the blue. Please, everyone, look at this. I made the decision to be thorough. What's this all about? Hold on. Wait. Margaret and Mike were shown on air having a private conversation. Although there was no audio, this kind of behavior at work was totally improper, especially in a solitary place. It was sufficient to be regarded as a serious infraction of professional conduct. Margaret, Mike, what is this? Mike and Margaret were devoid of expression and pallid. Johnson, you're married, aren't you? I wanted to emphasize that holding back had more to do with it than simply being married. No, it's not what appears to be. There is a miscommunication here, Margaret stumbled. It would be intriguing to observe how they provided an explanation for this. What do you mean by misunderstanding? I turned on the projector and moved on to the following video. This tape, which was taken on a later occasion, revealed Margaret and Mike having even closer contact. I'm not this person. It's not. Margaret appeared to be about to burst into tears, almost as she was breathing heavily. Enough, Jameson. Now switch it off. Mike made a demand. What are you talking about, Manager Mike? I changed to a different video on the projector. It showed Mike working on my computer in the development department by himself late at night. I was astonished to see this from the security guard. Even though I hadn't given him my password, it was easy to figure out how he was able to enter in at such a late hour. Manager Mike, who usually pushed work onto his subordinates, what were you doing alone in the office that night? All Mike could do was stay silent. Did he truly believe he would escape detection? Mike, I'd like to hear more from you later. Is that okay? I inquired. I was the one that broke the system for the client that day. In the conference room, most individuals were in disbelief. Margaret murmured, I thought if I kept slashing the budget, people would quit and Jameson would be exhausted and break down. After a minute of awkward quiet. However, I recommended it since he was too strong. Thus, Margaret was the one who suggested to Mike that there was a system error. I couldn't tolerate it that you were more capable than me and that your colleagues trusted you. Surprisingly, I was briefly tempted when Manager Mike openly admitted his feelings. I couldn't help but worry that you'd surpass me and become more influential in the company. Manager Mike couldn't look me in the eye, so he focused his attention on my tie. So when I gained power, I decided to get rid of you for Mike's sake. Margaret, in contrast to Mike, gave me a straight glance that was twisted into a look of loathing and rage. Their looks were disgusting and horrifying at the same time. In a nutshell, you two desired that I leave the company. After all these years of making contributions to the organization, why did I have to be let go? Even though I was furious as hell, I was done. Now, about the system malfunction you two orchestrated, I went on. I looked into it earlier, and it appears the damages to the client company amount to millions of dollars. What? Not at all. Millions? Margaret paled, realizing that by telling her beloved what to do, she had ruined everything. When it finally hit him, it was too late. What? Millions? Is that accurate? Mike inquired. Yes, these are preliminary figures, but I'm astounded by their collective stupidity. I responded. Manager Mike carried it out, but Manager Margaret, who gave the orders, is equally guilty. May I ask how you plan to handle this? Margaret said, I'm at a loss for what to do. You need to fix it. Well, since I was fired by you yesterday, there's nothing I can do about it, I replied. Margaret's cheeks reddened with rage, but she was unable to respond right away. You think you can handle this, Mike? You carried out the task. Ultimately, Margaret went on, assigning her beloved the responsibility. Mike was clearly disturbed by what had been spoken at this moment. What topic are you discussing? The commands came from you. Besides, without Jameson's approval, we are unable to make systemic changes. What? Margaret asked in shock. I was unaware of the patents. I had designed and patented the malfunctioning client system 30 years prior. Therefore, it cannot be fixed without me. You get it now, Margaret? I stated. The executives and the president were in disbelief and seemed to disappear inside the conference room. Our client has lost millions of dollars. This is terrible. While the president was aware of the patents, it's unlikely that he anticipated such a disastrous outcome. I'll use my power to revoke your termination. Just swiftly fix the system. Sorry, but I've already handed in my resignation to the president, so it's too late. Margaret's mouth fell open in silence. At this time, her haughty manner was almost impressive, even while she was appealing. Wait, Jameson. All I did was accept the resignation. He turned to face his daughter and urged her to kneel, saying, Please forgive this foolish daughter. Why should I have to kneel to this guy? You knave. Do you not recognize how serious this situation is? Express your genuine regrets. Still, I wasn't into kneeling or a forced apology. I apologize sincerely. Kindly think it over again. Margaret seemed to have never apologized from the bottom of her heart, based on her phony apology. Could you maybe think it over and aid the company, Jameson? If you remedy this, we'll void the dismissal and extend an executive post offer to you. I had been taken advantage of for decades, so such kind remarks had no effect on me. I'm leaving the company already, even if you decide to overturn the dismissal. An employee who has made the decision to leave cannot be persuaded otherwise. Both of their features went dark at that very moment. Hold on. You won't assist us after all this apologizing. It all began as a result of you. Isn't it wonderful that you can now reduce the budget even further without me? Margaret couldn't say anything. She did not reply. Besides, your dear manager Mike will figure it out even without me. Maybe you could generously boost the development department's funding after he repairs the system, which would satisfy everyone. Stop joking around. Perhaps they were so enraged by me that all they could do was vomit out crude comments. Perhaps this should come to an end. Margaret, you are the one who has been playing around all along. Oh, and you may want to refrain from acting strangely at work going forward. Farewell. I quit the company where I had worked for more than 30 years after making that final statement. Margaret's angry yells could be heard behind me as I left the conference room, but I fortified myself and turned away. If I did, I thought her face would have a very scary expression on it. The very thought of it unnerved me. 3 months had gone by since I left the company, and time had flown by. I'd eventually used a resignation service to effectively depart after receiving countless calls and letters attempting to bring me back. I discovered via the news that the incident had resulted in the total termination of our company's relationship with the client, so giving rise to substantial demands for compensation. It's obvious that they've given up trying to improve the system. I wonder if they have the funds to develop a successor system, but it will be interesting to watch how it is constructed. I kept in touch with the security guy, and when I left, we would occasionally get together at an inexpensive beer hall to discuss rumors about the company. It turns out that there was a romantic relationship between Margaret and Mike. Margaret, it seems, slashed the budget to drive me, the ace, to the breaking point since her darling Mike thought I was a bother. Looking back, it seemed very strange that despite everything, Manager Mike's pay hadn't improved all that much. Everything made obvious now. Margaret's father, the president, would likely pay the compensation, but it appears that Mike's wife learned of their relationship, which has caused further financial and emotional hardship for them both. Although the security guard was unable to determine how it was found specifically, it was sufficient information to regale others over a few beers. The company is going to fail in a few years because my patents powered my other apps and technologies that are no longer useful for business. Nevertheless, neither Margaret nor the president posed the greatest threat to the organization. Without a doubt, that was the security guard. I didn't hunt for a new career after leaving the company and went back to my hometown. As I'd approached 60, I made the decision to inherit my parents' home and live out the rest of my days in the country. I hadn't been able to see them while they were still living, but it's great to have a hometown you can go back to. As an engineer, I've worked with computers and other technologies in buildings for years, but I'm not sure what I should do next. My ability to work as a freelance engineer is enhanced by the patents and abilities I have acquired. There won't be a problem with money for long because I have enough saved to live well for almost 10 years without working. I'm free right now. I have few happy memories from the decades I have spent concentrating only on my profession. There may have been a few, but they didn't make a significant impact. I've always desired to pursue an endeavor outside of engineering. Perhaps I'll take a part-time job at a convenience shop or restaurant. It could be fun to open my own tavern or beer hall. If I do, I'm going to make the kind security guy my first client. I've relieved myself of the weighty responsibilities. I'll live the remainder of my life with greater freedom, as though I'm making up for lost time. Hey, please come on over. Together, let's go to bed. She hadn't spoken anything like that to me in 5 years. I sat down next to her carefully. She offered me a big smile wrapped in the warmth I hadn't felt in a long time when I looked directly into her face. For a brief while, I was genuinely pleased. I realized that I truly wanted to spend my entire life with her. I did consider that, but in the end, I was the one who caused our separation. I suppose I ought to talk about that first. I was 30 when it all started. I was simply another employee at an office. I worked hard and did my job when I got to work, but I wasn't getting promoted very quickly. Even an ordinary person like me once met by coincidence, and that someone was Jessica. Jessica and I met at work. We began going out to eat together because she was a high achiever at a client company, and eventually we began dating. Jessica, on the other hand, was focused, capable, driven, and obviously headed for success. When she was fully engaged in her task, she was stunning. Jessica kept working even after we got married and had a kid. In fact, she grew even more involved in her work and was promoted to manager after delivering birth. She didn't, however, disregard our house in any way. She did a good job of juggling motherhood and housework. But it hurt me to watch Jessica handle things so gracefully. I was unhappy to see her succeed at work and at home, earning more than me. I was merely jealous of Jessica, and I knew it. But I was unable to control my negative emotions, so I turned to drink as a way out. Maybe it would have been better if I'd been honest with Jessica about how I felt and my shortcomings, but I was too prideful to do that. Jessica, on the other hand, appeared confused and unsure of how to handle my heavy drinking. Jessica and I stopped talking to one another and drifted apart. We were divorced when Jessica and I were 35 years old, and our daughter Lily was 5 years old. Lily accompanied her mother. It made sense. A man like me, who turned to alcohol for solace, couldn't possibly be a parent. I could feel the house getting bigger and quieter after my wife and child left. After the divorce, Jessica accepted a job overseas that she had previously turned down and departed right away. Lily naturally accompanied her. I did not realize how much I had neglected my family for booze until I was left on my own and lonely. As a small atonement, I gave up alcohol. After that, all I had to do was work, so I gave it my all, but I didn't get much done. I continued to be an ordinary worker. When Jessica got back from her trip, she promised to let me visit Lily. All I could do was wait for our next meeting to happen. Would Jessica allow me to visit this man who had turned to booze, I wondered. I don't think she wants to see my face at all. Despite my knowledge that I should give up on Jessica, because I was the one who destroyed our family, my affections for her persisted even after the divorce. After the divorce, my daughter Lily called me out of the blue 5 years later. Even though I had been paying child support, we hadn't communicated or met. I hadn't heard her voice in the previous 5 years. Naturally, Lily's voice sounded older than my memory of her at 11. Furthermore, when she added, "There's someone I want you to meet," I was taken aback. Jessica doesn't seem to be attending the meeting that we had planned to have again. I was taken aback when Lily abruptly mentioned that she wanted me to meet someone after they had both returned from a trip overseas. It was all shocking to me. The surprises didn't stop there, though. When I got to the family restaurant where I was meant to meet Lily, the adult Lily was seated next to an unfamiliar man in his 30s. That's when I understood that man had to be the one she wanted me to meet. He's undoubtedly Jessica's new partner and her new father figure. He had a nice tan and appeared to be a kind man. I admit it, I still feel something for Jessica. I don't know what to do, and there's no way I can speak with Jessica's new partner. At the restaurant's entryway, I stood motionless. But both Lily and the man saw me. "Dad, come on over." Lily gave a hand motion. She must have believed that I was trying to find them. The man seated behind Lily gave me a small nod. I did not move. That's when I pivoted on my heel and took off. I heard Lily yelling, "Dad," from behind me, but I just hurried out of the restaurant without stopping. I know that sounds pitiful, but I simply couldn't bring myself to go see Jessica's partner right now. Jessica's new partner, though, moved very quickly. I was apprehended quickly. We went to a nearby park when Lily caught up, and she let out a loud sigh. "You're completely wrong, Dad. My father is not this man. Mom works with him. He's married and has 5 children. The fact that he wasn't Jessica's boyfriend astonished me more than the fact that he had 5 kids. Their house must be really energetic. Hello, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you. We cultivate crops. Jessica has lent us land and farm equipment, which has been a huge assistance with our farm. I also occasionally teach her about farming. I told him I wanted to see my dad today, and he drove me here. The amount of knowledge was nearly too much for me to handle. What was Jessica's method of meeting someone in a farming community? Then Lily disclosed a startling truth. Mom is now lending a hand at the farm. She left her former position. Tom expanded on his remarks. After suffering a breakdown due to excessive labor during her foreign assignment, Jessica came back to the United States 3 years ago. Tom was someone Jessica's parents knew. When Jessica said she wanted to leave the corporate and city life behind, he had assisted her in finding a home in the country. In addition, he assisted her in finding employment on his farm so she could get money by giving her land and farm equipment. He was an ally to Jessica and Lily. I was ignorant of all of this. Perhaps she didn't want to depend on me even in times of need, in which case I would have assisted if she had told me. Lily firmly stated, "My mom is the person I wanted you to meet," as I was considering this. I heard Mom mention that she wanted to apologize to Dad while she was on the phone with Grandma. Please forgive me for what? I'm not sure, but she stated she wants to apologize, but is unsure of how to do so at this time. Mom hasn't been feeling well recently, and I believe she's worried about your relationship. Are you going to meet her? I was to blame for the divorce. Jessica doesn't need to apologize to me. In fact, this is ideal. I see Jessica once more. I promised Lily I would drop by Jessica and Lily's place shortly. My heart was pounding as we agreed on a meeting time and then said our goodbyes. I've been living a life of regret ever since the divorce. I hadn't even managed to apologize for starting the divorce back then when I was so drunk. I decided that when we met, I would give her a sincere apology. That's what my innermost decision was. The day I was supposed to go see Jessica and Lily's place came around fast. After boarding an express train and subsequently a local train, the view outside changed from bustling city life to peaceful rural areas in less than 60 minutes. It still shocked me that Jessica, a once vibrant career lady, was helping out on the country farm. Upon arriving at the specified address, I noticed a conventional home encircled by open spaces. Lily was the only one to meet me because she had informed me that Jessica wouldn't be back till the evening. All that remained now was to bide our time till Jessica returned. Greetings from our home to yours. Naturally, there were no cafes or coffee shops to pass the time. Jessica arrived, and Lily and I waited while we stared out at the enormous fields, mountains, and prairies. Lily abruptly collapsed into a blade of grass. Hey, please come on over. Together, let's lie down. That was the first time Lily had said something similar to me in 5 years. I sat down next to her carefully. With a big smile on her face, she gave me a warm smile that I hadn't felt in a long time. It was a happy moment that surrounded me. I never imagined spending another day with Lily on this level. Is this how every day feels like today? I couldn't help but hope Lily and I could spend more days like this. That concept naturally occurred to me. Time seemed to fly by while Lily and I were unwinding, and then I heard Harry's voice call. I turned to face the voice as I sat up. Jessica was there, someone I hadn't seen in 5 years. She had on work clothes that I had never seen her wear before, and her skin was suntanned and makeup-free. She used to dress in more ornate ways, but she now appeared younger and healthier. Jessica came outside, and Lily went in. She seems to desire some alone time with us. Why are you here? Jessica inquired. Lily wanted to meet, so she came over. I told Jessica that Lily was coming with Tom instead of bringing up the bit about her wanting to apologize. Is that accurate? After all, she was eager to visit her father. However, did it surprise you that we reside in a rural area? To be honest, I was. I never thought you would be a farmer or live in the country. Jessica smiled for the first time that day at what I said. Me neither, but I grew weary of going to work every day. I only desired to see some vegetation. I see, but it's amazing that you've taken up farming as a job. Not really. I started out knowing nothing at all, and I have only lately been able to handle my own field. I still assist Tom and other farmers to pay my living expenses. She must have found living abroad more difficult than I had thought if she would take to such extreme measures to stay away from going back to her corporate job. When things at work got hard, I apologized for throwing all the parenting on you. Do the payments for child support suffice? Do I need to raise them? I don't mind, you know. No, it's all right. To be honest, I hadn't dealt with the child support. I considered putting money toward her future educational expenses. Are you still with the same company? Jessica might have recalled my struggles at work, how I got jealous of her, and how I ended up drinking. I am, indeed. After the divorce, I made an effort to immerse myself in my profession, but I still go to work every day like any other employee and do my job. That alone is incredible. That was the time I wanted to apologize to you. I didn't understand why you started drinking. I even believed you ought to give it more sometimes. However, having experienced my own breakdown at work, I could relate to the need to run away. When work gets tough, it gets terrible, and it feels like a part of life. I apologize for not supporting you, listening to you, or being there for you. At what Jessica had said, I shook my head. It's not that the work is difficult. It's that I felt horrible comparing myself to someone with your level of ability. I know it's pathetic. You were so cool and so productive that I felt bad for you. I regret not being able to tell you how I really felt, but my small pride got in the way. Jessica paid close attention to everything I said. So you had that feeling. I regret not listening to you more when we were first married. Perhaps I was too quick to write you off as weak because I was too preoccupied with myself. No, I was the one who neglected our family and started drinking. It was not at all your fault. I have always wanted to say I'm sorry. I sincerely apologize for what I did at the time. We talked about our sentiments and then enjoyed dinner together with Lily, using the veggies from Jessica's garden. There are benefits to country living, but there are also many drawbacks. But Jessica seemed to be enjoying all of the difficulties, as she grinned while describing her challenges with us over dinner. She had not the smallest sorrow about quitting her work. I clung to my job so much, but once I let go, it turned out not to be such a big deal after all, I replied. Lily, observing what I had said, proposed, Dad, why don't you come live here too? Jessica and I looked at each other shamefully and couldn't stop laughing. I started going to Lily and Jessica's house on the weekends after we were reunited. But one day, Jessica was helping a farmer named Tom, and I got a call from him telling me that Jessica had been hurt. I'd hastily left work and made my way to Jessica. It appeared like someone had broken into the residence. Luckily, the damage was limited to a push-related fracture. That it wasn't more serious was a relief. After prompt assistance from neighbors, the burglar was apprehended. When Jessica saw that I had left work early for her, she became upset. Sorry, it's not a big deal. Not at all. That's severe enough, getting broken in by a burglar and breaking a bone, I retorted. I spent some time helping Jessica with chores and taking care of Lily at her place using my paid leave. Even though Jessica's injury wasn't ideal, they had a great time spending the days together from dawn to night. Even though it was a lot more labor-intensive than I had anticipated, I gave farming a try at Jessica's property. Jessica and Lily teased me for being sore all over, but their smiles made it seem like a fortunate break. Lily started crying when it was time for me to go. Dad, please don't go. Lily begged me to stay with her, and I said, We'll be together starting next month. What? She questioned. Why are you coming to stay again? At her inquiry, I grinned. In fact, I've been considering moving back in with Mom and you. Is that acceptable? Lily's eyes shone, despite the fact that she had been crying minutes before. She was ecstatic and shouted, Really? As a matter of fact, I had resumed dating Jessica not too long ago. In addition, we had discussed moving back in together, and I had given notice to my employer that I would be leaving in 2 months. However, I requested to move my resignation ahead, since I was worried about the safety of 2 women living alone after the burglary happened. I'll be back at the company only to hand things off. I'm going to be moving in with Jessica and Lily next month. In an effort to set up chances for local income, I have also been spending my weekends visiting other farmers and agricultural cooperatives. We were going to surprise Lily, but her tears had other ideas. It was no longer shocking, but Lily's happiness made it all worthwhile. Jessica and I got remarried 6 months later, and now the 3 of us live together as a family. There isn't a convenience shop close by, and our income isn't what it was when I worked for a corporation. Although it may seem inconvenient, we are content to relish the simplicity and have the mental room to do so. Sharing our everyday experiences and eating meals as a family is the most important thing. Knowing one other's shortcomings by now, Jessica and I have made the decision to be honest with each other about everything and work together to find answers. As a pair, we talk about our relationship frequently. Jessica is the more experienced farmer that I am studying from in the hopes of becoming as knowledgeable as she is. The days of being constrained by small-minded pride and feeling inadequate seem like a long time ago. I am resolved to value my family more than ever this time around because the ties that I once believed to be irreversibly severed have been restored. My name is William. I am a well-known and accomplished entrepreneur who oversees multiple businesses. To be honest, though, I have little interest in that area of my life. I live in a nice home and have a stable income, but that doesn't really matter to me. All that counts to me is my ability to perform my job. I believe I will likely remain alone for the rest of my life since I adore what I do. Although many around me believe that, as a CEO, I should be able to relax, I would much rather continue to be actively involved in the day-to-day operations of the company. I'd occasionally go visit the site dressed for work. You don't need to do all that, they say, but interest and a want to participate are what matter to me. Hello, William. Hey, Tyler. What's up? This is Tyler, a childhood friend of mine. He's the only close buddy I have left since I relocated to the city and lost contact with my peers from my hometown. I told everyone I was going to be a businessman when I left my hometown, but they all thought it was such a romantic idea. I departed with the purpose of leaving everything behind at that point, because there was no point in staying in touch with individuals who didn't believe in me. At the time, Tyler was the only person who gave me support and encouragement. I relocated to the city at the same time as a few others from my hometown, but Tyler is the only one I stay in contact with. Oh gosh, something about this seems off to me. I understand that you would rather not socialize with individuals from your hometown, but I have been requested to organize an event for singles. We are lacking one employee, and it is intended exclusively for those employed by large corporations. What? Who is that haughty individual? First of all, I don't work for anyone. I know you detest it, but it's Jake, haha. I apologize for not being able to decline, but the only other people from our hometown who moved away are married, so there isn't anyone else to ask. Jake, you can leave early if you just attend the first portion. You are not required to pay anything. Please don't worry about the charge. Give me your word that you won't discuss my work with anyone after the first section, and I'll depart. Excellent, many thanks for it. Naturally, I'll forget about it and express my gratitude later. The last person I saw from my hometown was actually Jake. At the time, he was the one that made fun of me the most. Even though I am happy doing what I love and am a successful entrepreneur now, remembering back on that period still pisses me off. Are you serious? I am, of course. Nothing is insurmountable for a human, is there? That is absurd. Do you know how many people live in New York? Perhaps in our hometown. That's why I'm doing it. Listen, let me explain. You don't understand. People who are successful beyond our wildest dreams are made in New York. The best thing that us rural people can hope for is a steady career in a large corporation. Working for these remarkable people and partaking in the sweet benefits of their achievement is the New York dream. I don't think so. Oh, how unyielding you are. Okay, all right, I'll just laugh when I see you in 10 years, sobbing and failing. Then don't come wailing to me for assistance. Don't worry, that won't happen. That was Jake for you, someone who clung so tightly to a rural way of thinking and who, for whatever reason, fiercely resisted my goals. Upon reflection, why did he make such a strong effort to stop me? He had no bearing on my future. I simply can't comprehend those kinds of individuals. After a few days. Hello, William. Hey, Tyler. What's up? Is the mixer canceled? No, regrettably, it is still ongoing. To set the date, I just gave a call. Sorry, but it's not possible. What time is it? It's 2 weeks from now, on Friday. What do you think? Okay, I'll adjust my schedule so I can go straight there from my work outside. Man, thank you so much. We ought to grab dinner together sometime. I'm definitely up for that. I used to be concerned about Tyler's ability to thrive in the city because he is so gentle and modest, but I'm happy to see that he is enjoying his work and has been slowly moving up the corporate ladder at a large corporation. Jake seems to be seeking girls by flashing his money, and this mixer seems to be more of the same. I've heard that he got a position at a respectable company. Tyler refused to invite me since he was aware of my relationship with Jake, but Jake insisted on having a successful person so he wouldn't look foolish. Tyler was put in a difficult situation and reached out to me because he needed someone with a high standing who was not more noticeable than himself. Though I theoretically have more standing than Jake as a business owner, I've kept my true job a secret from him. Tyler probably figured that since I'm not into romance, I'd be a simple pick for this, as if I'm the kind of person who gets excited about love, it will impede Jake's progress. I don't disclose my line of work to anyone outside of Tyler because of an earlier incident. Actually, after learning about my profession, someone from my hometown began taking advantage of me. If they had requested for a job in my company, I could understand, but instead, they were requesting loans or authorization to use my name. It felt disturbing since they obviously approached me with the goal of taking advantage of me. Jake might approach me just to get females or elevate his own standing, given his character. Nevertheless, I have no desire to assist people who previously claimed that I could never succeed. As part of my job, I also work in the construction industry, and occasionally I visit the site dressed in uniform to provide direct directions. I appreciate having direct conversations with Kevin, the site manager, in order to establish a strong rapport based on trust. This strategy makes sure that because of our shared trust, we can help one another when we need it. Even when my subordinates tell me I don't need to go that far, I persuade them that I'm doing it because I want to value personal connections. I'm really pleased of my subordinates because they carry on my heritage by appreciating the trust they gain from clients and coworkers. But maybe that's why they advise me to take it a little slower. I don't want to bother my subordinates, so because we're all working for the same goal, I feel compelled to start giving them greater responsibility this year. It's not that I can't unwind without working or that I don't trust them. I can't help but be involved in my work since I actually love it. Therefore, I can't just sit back and do nothing. I have been preparing to launch a new business recently. I'll be personally busier once it gets rolling, which should help balance my job in the current company. Right now, it's only in the planning stages. I can delegate some of my workload to my subordinates once this new endeavor gets going, which will reduce my involvement. I went to my place of employment today to have a conversation with Kevin regarding a number of topics. I get a lot of input from talking to other individuals outside, which is effective. There cannot be an output without an input. Although I genuinely enjoy managing a business, I still adore my work. It's not about making money, but rather about managing a business. How to make it work more smoothly, how to boost earnings, and how to deal with issues as they emerge. How should I go about this? I am a businessman because I enjoy putting these things together and carrying them out like a game. Naturally, I need the support of dependable staff members in order to accomplish this. Yes, I am the president who meddles in personnel problems and interferes. I would like to see and speak with my subordinates. I am involved in personnel concerns, and the other employees recognize that staffing decisions have the power to make or break a company. I then go back to the office and carry on working while wearing my work attire, despite my secretary's constant requests that I change at the very least. I always ignore it because I find it too annoying. Kevin laughed at me today when I brought this up. Typically, affluent individuals and business leaders would rather not wear work clothes because they care about how they look, but I see efficiency as the most important factor, so I'm not sure why they would feel otherwise. You'll get complaints about the boardroom and business clothing, I guess. Why? During the time I'd be changing, I'd rather work. That's understandable. But what if you get an unexpected guest? If the president is dressed in business attire, doesn't that seem horrible? That's what everyone says, but I don't understand. I'm the president, regardless of whether I'm dressed for work or not. Indeed, you are correct when you phrase it that way. Why everyone is so focused on appearances is beyond me. It's a matter of manners. You must uphold TPO in order to avoid offending the other person. Yes, now that you put it that way, Tyler's point also seems to make logic. Tyler and I got together and had dinner together today prior to the scheduled mixer. We usually get together, and today was no exception, but instead of spending time together, we got into a heated debate about my work attire. I didn't think there was anything wrong with wearing work attire, because I dislike those who are preoccupied with appearances and status. Tyler made some valid arguments, though, so I opted to retain a few suits at the office in case I needed them later. In this manner, I can maintain TPO, even in the event of an unforeseen guest. Tyler never undermines my intransigence. Instead, he consistently points me in the proper direction. He's a really cozy friend to hang out with. We discussed Tyler's latest work situation and exchanged information today. It seems that he has been experiencing employment anxiety lately. Everything was going well until last month, but now he's beginning to worry that he might not have a future at his present employer. Tyler was given a new boss last week, but he doesn't really get along with him. I explained to Tyler that if he doesn't get along with his boss, there's no point in sticking with that company and waiting for the boss to relocate or for there to be another personnel change. This is from the standpoint of a business owner. It is not effective. In my opinion, we shape our surroundings. Tyler acknowledged this and expressed that he would give switching jobs some serious thought. I was at a work site earlier on the day of the event, so I walked directly to the meeting location dressed for work. Normally, I'm not lost, but for some reason that day I was, so I had to contact Tyler. He was standing in front of the restaurant, waiting for me. "Hey, come on over. It's right here. It's a little concealed, and I got lost in it. I truly appreciate you coming, haha. But I'm going to be departing soon. You're still dressed for work because of this. Just stay until the party warms up. It's okay." Jake was seated when we walked into the restaurant. I hadn't seen him in a very long time. My mood dipped because I still remembered things from the past and hadn't dealt with them completely. "Jake, do you still remember me? William is here. Even though he was busy today, he made the entire trip here. Tyler, please just give me a moment. You mentioned inviting someone, huh? Heist back, is that correct? A person dressed for work is a bit excessive. Oh, I see. There was miscommunication. No, I was correct the entire time. Jake, long time no see." Jake did not even say hello before making fun of me because he saw me wearing my work attire. Fearing for his life, Tyler tried to step in, but Jake was not listening, so I took over. "William, you must be regretting not listening to me." "Why would I do that?" "Avoid titing someone who is harsh. I think I told you. It's not feasible for a rural kid like you to succeed as a businessman in New York, so it's only natural that you failed and became a laborer, isn't it? Pathetic. You would have at least had a steady life if you had followed my advice and obtained a job like Tyler and me. No, I'm living a stable life. It is impossible for a worker to work outside, particularly during this sweltering weather. There is an upper limit to physical labor. Perhaps you ought to think about changing careers. I appreciate the guidance. Being stern once more. Come on, showing up to a mixer in work attire. You'll never find any women. Being unpopular is all right with me. I just didn't want to make the effort to change. Part 2 of acting tough. I'm sorry for you. William, you need to get a steady position at a large company like mine, and all the females will come running. It's delightful. That doesn't pique my attention. I honestly lead a happy, steady life. What I'm discussing goes beyond what you consider stable. If you saw the change, you would be astounded. I'll forget that in the past you disregarded me. Do you want my guidance? I can even request that my supervisor hire you. Jake, hurry up. In reality, Tyler is William. Just keep silent for a while. I will impart a life lesson to William. Tyler, it's all right. I'm curious to hear what Jake has to say. Jake was completely out of control, which flustered Tyler. I was interested to see what kind of guidance Jake, who had experience with more success than me, would give at this stage. I was interested in hearing it. All right, letting down a little. Okay, let's start with step 1. Be proud to be a country boy. Be modest and virtuous. Why? Because there are a lot of proud folks in New York. People will naturally take care of you if you act like a dumb country lad and admit you're one. Simple, huh? These folks will usually cover your expenses, so take advantage of the freebies. Interesting. I wasn't interested in listening any more after his shrewd first bit of advice. I chose to give Jake a chance, though, in order to fully reveal his true self. The next step is to treat yourself with the money you saved from these folks. Pay Jay. When I went out to eat, I hardly paid for anything. Others did. I then make use of the cash I save on entertainment costs. Interesting. Are you keeping up with the discussion? You must find it refreshing to hear from a successful urbanite, don't you think? Hold on, Jake. Tyler. Don't worry. You could learn anything if you listen. William, pay attention to this one next. Pay attention. Using the additional cash to flirt with women is the final phase. Having fun with ladies? At last, Jake began uttering nonsensical things. Spending money you've saved on women. Of course, depending on how you play, it can be utterly trashy and abhorrent. Spend money, and don't be frugal with mixers like these. You lose as a man, don't you, if women label you cheap, even in the event of incurring debt. Taking on debt, eh? To be struggling to make ends meet, like you, the word debt must carry a lot of weight. I understand, but it's okay. I'm not advocating that you take out a loan from a loan shark. Make use of your credit card. It accomplishes 2 goals at once and gives the appearance of a smoother payment. I couldn't hold back my laughter. To begin with, the mentality is extremely traditional. The temptation to womanize with borrowed money is beyond me. The hubris to mislead and force others to spend their money. Money is cheap too. How in the world can he be boasting? You don't appear to be understanding it. Did you hear me? I heard you, but what? I'm not sure why, but it simply feels pointless to me. How come? Why do you act so haughtily? You're still forced to perform manual labor as a result, repeating your previous errors. Well, I haven't erred in any way, and womanizing isn't my thing. I get irritated just staring at you. You arrive in New York, lead a wretched existence, yet you still project an air of grandeur and refuse to even hear what others have to say. Why are you acting this way? I hope I didn't come across as conceited, but perhaps our beliefs are just different after all. I'm having a good time, and I'm sure Jake is too. You really irritate me. Obviously, I'm content. Here, I'm the most accomplished. Resultant? Heed. For what reason are you laughing? Put an end to it. Okay, 2 women showed up just as Jake was ready to snap and throw himself at me. Jake immediately took a different tone and returned to his seat. Hi, it's good to meet you. My name is Jake. Let's enjoy ourselves tonight. My name is Tyler. I appreciate you being here. Let's order some beverages first because Maria, our organizer, will be running a little late. I apologize to the girls for the confusion caused by the guy joining us dressed for work. Since that differs from what I was informed, I was taken aback. I'll pay the girls' expenses tonight as an apology. Hey, Tyler and Jake, don't worry. Give him space. Ignoring the distress the females were feeling, Jake kept making fun of me in front of them. I stopped Tyler when he attempted to step in. I don't mind if girls are attracted to men who speak negatively about other people so freely. They seem like a good match. Yes, Please proceed. What a loser like you says is irrelevant. Is that accurate? Hey girls, do you hear me? This man used to be a classmate of mine back home. He had this absurd dream after we went to New York, and I attempted to explain him the reality, but he was completely unreceptive. And now look at him. You see, I've built a name for myself in New York, and here he is, still working hard labor and dressed in his work clothes. It merely confirms my earlier assertions. I had just been counseling him earlier. Jake continued rambling, making himself look foolish as the girls cast uncomfortable glances at him. Tyler had his hands clasped around his head. I merely waited for time to pass while staring blankly at Jake's face. I kindly spent my time and energy teaching Jake how to survive in New York because he was so engrossed in his work that he failed to recognize the atmosphere. You would normally be appreciative, right? It's a rare opportunity to give counsel on how to stop being miserable. But he claims he doesn't require my guidance. How do you feel? Really impolite, don't you think? Say thank you, at the very least. It's really rude of you to come here dressed for work. It's embarrassing. Simply ignore him. I sincerely apologize to the girls for inviting such a moron. What a perverse character he is. It's okay, Tyler. The females claimed they didn't mind, although they appeared to be uncomfortable. After the first round, I knew this gathering would come to an end. The food and beverages arrived during this time, which helped to diffuse the tense atmosphere a little. Tyler turned to face me while Jake and the females were chatting. William, I apologize sincerely for this. It's okay, but perhaps you should stop allowing him to take advantage of you. Yes, I've always been terrible at saying no and have merely followed orders, but today I've made a decision. I no longer want to hang out with him. You know you don't have to do that for me, only in cases where it truly bothers you. I find it bothersome. I wish not to possess. Moreover, my ideals differ from those of Jake. Then you ought to stay away from him without a doubt. We ate our supper in silence, making fun of Jake's persona all the time. It was excruciating to see Jake publicly brag about his success in his firm and in society. Although I was unaware of Jake's level of success, I know that people who exaggerate their accomplishments typically have little to show for it. Thus, I secretly hoped that his actual nature would soon come to light. Then the final female, who was late, showed up. Sorry for being late, Maria. I appreciate you being here. We've just started eating, so don't rush. This is Maria, our female organizer, William, and Jake. Nice to meet you, Maria. What the heck? Hello, Maria. My name is Jake. You are quite gorgeous. We met in a miracle. Please take a seat. Upon greeting, Maria was shocked by something, but Jake continued talking without noticing and motioned for her to have a seat. How could someone be that naive? Just how does he function? Because I touched a gorgeous female, please quit acting sly. Jake, that's not the point. Relax. Maria brushed Jake off cold for some reason and came over to me. Are you William? The man dressed professionally? You should be with someone as high class as me, given your beauty. Pardon me, but what on earth are you talking about? Did you really just refer to William as the guy in work clothes? That is very amazing. Maria, please don't be so irrational. Did you previously know William? Have we previously met? Sorry, I don't quite remember you. You're really impolite. For a loser, remembering someone as lovely as her is a miracle. Men in success tend to recall the people they've met. Could you please keep quiet? Who believe you to be? Please stop talking. Yikes. Then Maria lost her temper. With their mouths agape, the other females appeared to be rooting for her. Tyler watched Maria and me, looking perplexed. Normally, I can recall faces well, but where did we meet? Maria's face was quite gorgeous, so I should be able to remember it, but I couldn't remember it all. You're William, the CEO of Fun Group, right? Yes, but Fun Group is where I work. Although I haven't met you yet, I've always wanted to. I became a member due to my fascination with your corporate concept. Mr. Smith. I see. One of our workers. Meeting here is awkward. What? You're not serious. You do not hold a CEO position. That isn't feasible. Will you please stop it now? William holds a prominent position as an executive in New York, and you've been behaving quite superior. But give up lying. People you've met are not remembered by you. William, a chief executive officer. Not at all. I'm telling the truth. I'm a capable employee. Simply look it up if you don't trust me. You also lie a lot. Jake, we've already met through Cash Corporation. You talk about yourself all the time and never listen to others. I'd assume you don't remember me. That's embarrassing, is it not? The girls, unable to contain their amusement any longer, chuckled. Huh. Jake looked flushed and desperately searched on his phone. What? And you're a CEO, William? Fun Group, a well-known business, is expanding at the quickest rate in New York. Why did you remain silent? I assumed it would cause problems with someone such as yourself. I discovered its risk aversion. As a CEO, I would advise dropping everything you suggested I do earlier. Nobody will want to hang out with you in the end. I apologize for stating this in a private setting, but I truly enjoy my work. I'm fully engrossed in it. I appreciate you providing me the chance to work for such a fantastic organization. Actually, I want to thank you for starting this incredible business. Although hearing this in front of people is a little awkward, I'm happy to hear that you're loving your employment. Just take care not to become all work and no play like me. Normally, I'm active in the hiring process, but scheduling conflicts may have prevented me from seeing your branch. Maintain your excellent work in the organization. Yes, thank you so much. Hey, William, things will go quickly if you own a business. I want to discuss something. Girls, this party is done. It's time to go. Jake abruptly cut us off from our talk with a demand. Are you serious? How illiterate can this guy become? His conceited approach to the subject was beginning to irritate me a little. Jake, if you're going to dismiss the girls, you should at least follow through on your promise. Make a vow. As an act of contrition for my presence causing difficulties, you promised to pay for the females, right? The first two girls gave a nod of approval. Maria gave Jake a chilly look, making it obvious that she thought this man was terrible news. However, that was prior to my learning that you were a company owner. I assumed that since I held a more senior role, I would be responsible for paying. However, things are different now. William, hurry up. Absurd. What a frugal dude. I would not have come today if I had known you were coming. Don't become arrogant just because you happen to be somewhat attractive. It indicates that you are simply that unimportant if I can't recall you. Avoid becoming arrogant. Tyler lost all self-control and yelled out of frustration. Is Jake truly the kind of man who, in order to maintain his pride, would say such horrible things to women? I'm in such shock that I'm at a loss for words. Ladies, put the money aside. I apologize profusely for today. Maria, is it possible for me to apologize to you later? Tyler, you don't need to apologize because you've done nothing wrong. Please ensure that I never have to interact with this jerk again. Mr. Smith, I'm sorry to have shown you this ugly spectacle today. I'm excited to collaborate with you going forward. Obviously. I swear to make sure this doesn't happen to you again. Once more, I apologize. I'll communicate with you. Similarly, I'll never forget your face. Now indeed, people who can work really stand out. Pardon me, I'm being made fun of by everyone. It enrages me. After having scarcely eaten, the females eventually left. They must have been anticipating the day, but Jake's egotism made everything go wrong. Did he even know that at all? Jake caught on to Tyler and Maria and my critical comments about him, and he grew enraged. He had no idea what he was doing and never listened to others, instead reacting quickly to his own problems. What a prickly man. William, I apologize deeply. I took my time as I understand how busy you are. Tyler, don't worry. Seeing Jake's antics was well worth the time. What? Nothing embarrassing that I can recall doing. You've been boasting and disparaging other people a lot. That is not the behavior of Victor. The best thing I've ever done is to follow my dreams instead of listening to you. I've fulfilled my dreams and goals, as you can see. Let the past be forgotten. Well, I'm in need of a favor. Jake is incredibly petty and is making a convenient effort to seem as though his embarrassing behavior never occurred. He even has the gall to beg for a favor. Despite my lack of desire to assist him, I chose to hear what he had to say. Tell me, what is it? If you like, I can cover the cost of the meal. I can support a fellow countryman in need. That is anticipated, correct? You have wealth. That is completely unanticipated. Jake, get a handle on things. I will cover the cost. Don't become too agitated. It's not often that I see you this way, Tyler. Tyler, don't worry. Let's listen to Jake's perspective. My request is, could you lend me some money? What? You just claim to be extremely wealthy. William lives a miserable life, but I'm successful. Well, I just wanted to have a little pride in myself. It's a little tight because I spent too much money on girls this month. Absurd. You're done entirely. Tyler, please keep quiet. I'm currently having a crucial chat. William, think of it as helping a friend. You mentioned that you were successful at work, Jake. You can handle this month's challenges, but what about next month? It's what's wrong, William. Hear me out. My company does not recognize talent. Someone as competent and kind-hearted as I am is not appreciated by them. Rather, they elevate completely worthless individuals before me. As a company owner, what are your thoughts on that? I don't think you need to say more. Tyler, I would never lend money to anyone except for business purposes. Now hurry up. May I apply for a job at your company? I want to leave the unappreciated work I'm in now, but finding a new one is a chore. You can get around all the challenging procedures if you're in charge, right? That would be fantastic. No. What? Why not? We're friends, right? Tyler is a friend, but you're just an acquaintance from school. Why do you act so aloof? Do you still have grudges against the past? Forget about the little things. I'll apologize if you say you'll hire me. Okay, you should apologize first. Come with me, William. This isn't going away. Ed. All right. Jake, farewell. I doubt we will cross paths again. Be careful. Wait a minute. Hey, Tyler, and I walked away from Jake, who was holding on tight. Naturally, I paid the bill. I doubted Jake ever planned to pay the amount he was due to. He most likely would have tried to get Tyler and myself to pay if the mixer had gone as planned. He must be a tremendous pain in the office. Certainly, one cannot trust a man who lies like that all the time at work. Maybe I should ask you for a job. Tyler, you're always welcome. I'll spare you from all the difficult steps. Jake would cry later. I discovered that Jake's subpar work was the reason he was viewed as a liability by his employer. It would be simpler to handle Jake if he took on a less involved job at the company, but he consistently oversteps his bounds and receives reprimands because he believes he is capable. He boasts to ladies about his alleged workability and stature at mixers, where he lets out his frustrations despite being the source of his own problems. He even bemoans the fact that someone as competent as he is treated unfairly by his employer. I work in human resources, and Jake is the epitome of the kind of person you should never hire. After our meeting, Jake carried on as usual. I turned him down for a job and a loan, but he continued to live a life of despair. He boasted the same way at mixers every time he came back to our hometown, which eventually made everyone sick of him. The fact that Tyler told us the truth about Jake simply made him more apart from our community, and he no longer often goes home. However, I was able to convince Tyler to work for my organization. Since Tyler never tells lies, I felt secure in our relationship of mutual trust. We need individuals like this for executive positions, people who can be completely trusted. So soon after he joined, I gave him an executive position. Tyler felt the part was too fantastic for him at first, but I reassured him of my confidence and helped him embrace it. Having Tyler as a close assistant makes things much easier for me as I launch a new business. Being able to lead new projects is thrilling. I'm appreciative of my early realization of my talent for management and my ability to make snap decisions. I'm appreciative of the people in my immediate vicinity's support, but I'm also proud of my effort. I'm excited to take my business to new heights. You can call me John. I'm a single 24-year-old. I work at a well-known department shop in Manhattan's downtown right now. My smartphone started ringing just as I was thinking about going back to bed after drinking too much and suffering from a pounding hangover. My supervisor, the department manager, was the one who called. On the day off, why would he be calling the store? My supervisor welcomed me with excitement as I answered the phone, looking at me like I was lost. Good morning, John. I'll pick you up this evening as promised. What pledge are you referring to? You're really humorous. Did you not mention at the party yesterday that you would go on a date with my daughter and possibly even try cohabiting? His reply was so out of the blue that it utterly confused me. My supervisor added, "Talk to you later," and abruptly hung off, but I was too shocked to respond. I tried to calm myself down by drinking some water as I couldn't understand what was going on. I felt awful when I considered the party from last night. I was drinking beer to bury my sorrows after going through a breakup at the company's drinking party. Layla, a gorgeous 22-year-old model with an amazing body, was my ex-girlfriend. I was in love with her, but after we had a talk and she cheated on me, we decided to end things. Layla stated that if I was going to accuse her of cheating, there were plenty of other men out there instead of me, and it would be best to end the relationship. I was upset by her callous remarks and turned to alcohol to drown my sorrows. My recall of what transpired next is hazy, but I believe I told my supervisor about my sadness. A scary reality came to light just as I was getting a message from a coworker asking how I was doing yesterday and what I had discussed with my supervisor. Upon observing my distraught mood, my supervisor proposed. How about going on a date with my daughter? This year is her 37th birthday, and she appears ready to tie the knot. She appeared to like you when she spotted you at the store, and she is sincerely looking for a mate. I would really like to see my grandchildren, as I will shortly be retiring. I'm married to an elderly woman, and I promise it's wonderful. I seem to have answered nonchalantly, "Sure, why not?" when I was intoxicated. My supervisor, who was encouraged by my answer, even made the suggestion that we try living together for a month in order to get to know one another better. Once you get to know her, I'm sure you'll like her. I hate my old self for lifting a glass and saying that in response to your words, boss. I truly want to flee, but I can't since I accepted this on my own. My supervisor arrived at my house in the evening as agreed upon to pick me up. It seems that our destination was an upscale eatery, where I was expected to have my first encounter with his daughter. We would go straight to my daughter's apartment, where she lives alone, after supper. The apartment is completely equipped, so all you need to bring is essential gear. I'll transport your belongings to the apartment while you two are dining. Additionally, since it's a big occasion, how about dressing up in a stylish suit? I believe it will greatly increase your charm. All right. My boss's excitement overwhelmed me, so I gathered my belongings, dressed into a suit, and slid into the car. I'm sure you two will get along, my supervisor would smile and say again as we were traveling. I started to feel hopeful as I listened to him. Despite my strong attraction to younger, attractive women, I recently experienced a traumatic breakup and decided it could be a good idea to try dating an older woman this time. and perhaps my boss's daughter is attractive, given how strongly he is pushing this. I went to the restaurant with these fantasies in mind, but my aspirations were dashed right away. The woman who was waiting for me was not the normal kind. She was a really overweight person. Normally, I like thin ladies. My sister and mother feel the same way. This woman in front of me appeared to be really large. "It's good to meet you. My name is Grace," she said kindly. It seemed that her outfit, with its beautiful flowery print, was mismatched. Perhaps it was because her outfit was bright colored, and her hair was a completely different color. I was dissatisfied because her age was evident on her face, and it was not nice. My employer smiled and said, "Take your time," after we had exchanged greetings. As I was wondering what to chat about with a woman over 10 years my senior, Grace began to speak gently. "I apologize for drawing you into this difficult circumstance, but don't worry, I recognize my place as well." Her surprising remarks caught me off guard. Grace turned to face me with a lovely grin as I stood there, gaunt. "My father is incredibly eager to marry me off as soon as possible. But as you can see, I'm ashamed to admit that I have never experienced love despite my good looks and social abilities. In fact, I've given up on the notion of getting married." "Oh, I see." While Grace was speaking, I couldn't help but feel bad for her. It seems that the person in a hurry was not her, but rather her father, my employer. Thus, I must ask for a favor. For only 1 month, would you be willing to live with me? We would, of course, have our own bedrooms, and I would pay for all of our living expenses. In my residence, you are free to do as you wish. My father should cease bothering me if I can show him that I'm not suited for living with someone. Don't worry, if things don't work out, I'll make sure you don't face any discrimination at work. I was set on turning down every proposition at first, but after hearing her story, I had second thoughts. "All right, Grace, you can tell that your father genuinely cares for you. Given the situation, I'll consent to this." When Grace heard me agree, her eyes lit up with happiness. "Many thanks. I'm overjoyed." "Well, but I have to admit, John, you really are amazing. Let's utilize the upcoming month to its fullest." Grace struck me as a nice and gentle person as I got to know her. Despite her social awkwardness, I think she really is a good person. She's obviously not my type, and although I feel bad for her, I don't think there's much prospect of a love relationship developing between us. Thus, we started a 1-month trial period of cohabitation. "They're going for it," my boss exclaimed, beaming with excitement. But we had decided to break up within a month, using the mutually accepted reason that we just didn't click. However, living with Grace proved to be really comfortable in the end. I was first concerned about our age difference and lack of shared interests. But one day, I discovered something unexpected about her that completely altered our relationship. "It's a lovely bouquet of flowers. Did you purchase them?" I'd inquired about the little white bouquet that was sitting on the windowsill. Grace gave a head shake. "No, that was my creation." "You created that?" Surprised, I asked. It turns out that Grace was a floral arrangement instructor, something I was unaware of. I was interested by her work because I work at a department store and have a strong interest in fashion and art. "Where did you get the idea for this arrangement?" I inquired. As Grace described her masterpiece, her eyes gleamed. "The snowdrop is the name for this white flower. Isn't it stunning?" I used a silvery environment as my inspiration and the snowdrop as the focal point to convey the winter's glittering magnificence. After hearing Grace describe her distinct perspective, I became enthralled with her. The time passed quickly as we enjoyed our conversation regarding the arrangements. We were going to eat separately at first, but I couldn't help but want to spend more time with her. We had a natural tendency to start eating meals together without even realizing it. Grace may have been a professional chef because she was highly adept at doing domestic duties. We had originally intended to divide up the domestic duties, but Grace always made sure the house was clean by the time I woke up because she was an early riser. I tried to help because I felt bad, but Grace replied that I was the one who forced this arrangement on her. Ultimately, Grace handled every task, save for cleaning my room and doing the laundry. My home was always tidy and orderly, and my meals were tasty and well-balanced. The level of comfort was exceptional. My manager at work would often check in with us. "John, how's it living with my daughter?" "It's truly pleasurable. Grace is really good at doing housework. I sincerely appreciate it." "I'm glad to hear that." She claims that someone like me can never experience love. Despite being our beloved daughter, she constantly minimizes herself. After hearing my boss's story, I had an idea. I chose to give Grace a gift of my own because I'd been meaning to thank her for her wonderful dinners. I chose to use my sewing talents to create a personalized pie for her after finding a suitable piece of cloth. My covered pastime is stitching, and my mother taught it. I work at a department store now, managing the fashion floor. Of course, I had to take her measurements so I could make the garment. Grace was excited to hear about my plan when I told her. "Oh, I'm very grateful." "John, I'll let you handle the measures then." "Yes, please, thank you." I held Grace's arms out gently, nervousness taking hold of me. I was so excited to see her body up close for the first time that my heart was racing. Whoa, that girl is huge. Grace was definitely larger than typical, but I think that part of her advantage was that she could wear some styles better than others. In keeping with that belief, I gave her a handcrafted dress. "This is mine to keep." Grace looked stunning in the shiny black dress with its patterns of huge white roses. I eventually started to think that her stylish attire was more attractive than her cutesy, frilly ones. Her bigger frame seemed to be perfect for striking patterns and distinctive looks. "Grace, you really look amazing. Could I apply your makeup as well, if you'd like?" Working at a department store, a job my sister, a hairstylist, had suggested, I picked up some basic makeup abilities. I put makeup on Grace's face, taking notes from a makeup book. She usually liked her makeup natural, so I went for a deep black eyeliner and a vivid red lipstick. Her raven black hair looked amazing with the strong makeup, just as I had predicted. No way, I'm not even familiar with myself. "Grace, you do a great job incorporating this unusual look." "I guess I like it, even if this is a first for me. I used to wear flowery, frilly clothes just because my mother enjoyed them." "I see," Grace said, recalling how her mother had once encouraged her to dress in this manner. "I've always detested my appearance. Though I always believed makeup to be useless, I must admit that it does have an impact. Since not everyone can carry off this look, it's very remarkable when someone can. That someone is you. Have faith in yourself. You're quite attractive." I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as soon as I said those words. I really felt that, so it wasn't flattery. Grace looked very gorgeous as she stood in front of me. I never imagined that this was how I would perceive her. "Thank you, John. I'm overjoyed." Grace put those words into words and smiled sweetly. My heart lifted to see her happy face. Age was no longer a factor. After just 3 weeks of cohabitation, I started to really like her. Her bigger frame initially turned me off, but I eventually got used to it and was most taken by her charming attitude. I had to say what was on my mind before the trial time ended. I decided that the next day off, I would take Grace shopping. We would try to find clothes that fit her new fashion sense. In the middle of all this, I made the decision to come clean. My ex-partner Layla sent me a note expressing her desire to reunite. I would have happily accepted her invitation if it had been the old me, but that was not me just now. I told Layla up front that I couldn't. My heart belonged exclusively to Grace at this point. I made a decision to move on from the past and anticipate our date tomorrow. But something unexpected occurred during the date with Grace. "Oh, John, is that you?" When Grace and I happened to run into Leela while strolling through the mall, I was completely unprepared. With a bewildered expression on her face, Grace assessed Leela with an obtrusive gaze. Compared to Grace, Leela was more conventionally attractive. She didn't appear lovely when she made that face. John, did I dump you and you go crazy? You have always had a thing for slender, attractive women like me. Strolling around with a bulky, mature woman such as she is. Your taste has significantly declined. Grace was left stunned by Leila's cruel remarks. Then, with a seductive purr, Leila strolled over to me and said, "Hey John, wake up. Let's begin anew. I'm far superior to that elderly woman." "Don't disrespect the person I care about," I interrupted Leila because I could take no more of my silence. The volume of my voice took me by surprise, even more than I had anticipated. My abrupt change in mood surprised Leila and Grace as well, making their eyes wide. To me, Grace is the most significant person in the planet. To me, Leila, she is far more wonderful than someone who denigrates others like you. That's my level of affection for her. Leila, even if it's you, I won't allow you to continue hurting her. What? Okay, anything. That simple, uninteresting old lady is perfect for you. Leila spit out her farewell statement and bolted off. Taking Grace's hand, I walked to a quiet park, realizing that the town people were watching us. Grace was crying uncontrollably, perhaps because Leila had said something hurtful to her. I had to get her to calm down in a peaceful area. I first apologized to Grace as we sat down on a bench. "Grace, I apologize for the previous incident. My ex was acting inappropriately. You must not take it personally." Grace gave me a tearful look when I stated that. "No, that isn't it. I'm content. I've always detested my appearance." I was ecstatic to hear it from you, even though I had assumed no one would ever appreciate me. "John, I've liked you since the first time I saw you." Overwhelmed with joy, I pulled Grace gently into an embrace. "Grace, I adore you too. You truly are stunning." Grace took hold of my hand and said, "Yes, even if other people put me down. If you say that to me, John, that's enough for me," as I said that and stroked her back. I was able to communicate my sentiments to her, even though it turned out to be very different from what I had first thought. We then formally began dating and informed my boss that we intended to someday tie the knot. The news made the boss quite happy. Congrats. The reunion of my gorgeous daughter and my admirable subordinate makes me very happy. Thus, following a year of courtship, we were able to legally register our union. We are getting ready for our wedding ceremony right now. We had to sew Grace a new wedding dress because she had dropped a lot of weight since we first met. The boss looked at a magazine featuring floral arrangements and sighed dreamily. "Grace really has become so beautiful since meeting John," she said. Grace appeared on the cover of that magazine. With her achievements and stylish appearance, Grace, who had established herself as a successful flower arrangement instructor, became a well-known and captivating personality in the floral arrangement sector. Grace looked several times more gorgeous than she had been when we first met, especially in the black dress I had given her as a present, which was tailored to fit her slimmer form. Love is a powerful thing, isn't it? I was able to move past a heartbreak and rediscover the joy of love after I met Grace. If I'm with her, we can conquer everything that comes our way. I beamed at the boss, knowing in my heart that this was true.